taking those from nobody.
Your superstars have off games.
Follow us on social media at Celtics Talk Weekly.
Welcome into Celtics Postgame Live, everybody. I'm your host, Justin, alongside with me, Seamus Arlingo, a.k.a. Celtics Every Day. Ian Angelo should be joining us a little bit later on in the show, but the Boston Celtics fall to the Dallas Mavericks 95-92 on this Sunday afternoon matinee against the Dallas Mavericks on ABC. This is on KG night. Now we're going to get to KG. Actually, I want to talk about KG first, Seamus, if you don't mind, because that was the highlight of today. Win-loss for the Celtics today was about Kevin Garnett, right? And I'm sure we can all agree with that. Definitely, at least we didn't get blown out like we did 4 years ago on Paul Pierce night. At least this game, we were a lot more competitive. I thought the Celtics defensively tonight, we'll get into it later, I know, but, just fell short tonight on KG night. What did you think about KG? I mean, that ceremony was awesome. It was great to see Ray there. Great to see those key bench guys like Leon Powe, James Posey, Big Baby Davis. We didn't know who was going to go and who wasn't going to go, and I love the turnout.
Yeah, and just looking at these two ceremonies that we've seen in the last 4 years, both the Paul Pierce ceremony and the Kevin Garnett ceremony, those are special moments in history that I'm so appreciative of, because not many franchises get to witness even one of these, or just one of these moments, and we've seen two in the last 4 years. And of course, they were talking about, maybe Ray Allen's jersey's retired. He shouted out Rondo as well in there. Right. Maybe his jersey gets retired. And you just think about, these days makes me proud to be a Celtics fan, because you look at these fan bases, they don't have pride. They don't have these moments of just pure greatness coming together and celebrating what they have accomplished in the past. And, it's almost weird to say, but these losses, both the Cavs lost 4 years ago and the Mavericks lost today, it's almost okay that we lost, because you don't even think about the game at all. And we're going to get to the game later, but you almost don't think about the game, because, this moment is just much bigger. This, jersey retirement moment, you saw, Kevin Garnett himself, he was emotional out there. And just the whole time, myself too, I was just getting chills, because his number is going up there, and this is just this one singular moment in an event, but that number is going to be up there forever, and his legacy is 1,000% solidified. And it's just amazing, because play and seeing him now, he was traded away, and we have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown from that, and he retired, and now all of a sudden, he's along with all these other greats, and it's just amazing to see.
And we talked about it. We ended the show, our post-game show, a couple nights ago on such a phenomenal note. When we were after the Pistons game, you and I were talking about how we should never, ever take moments like this for granted, because, like you said, KG, his number is up there until the day we're 6 feet underground. As dark as that sounds, it's true. I mean, Kevin Garnett, his legacy in Boston officially is lived on forever. And Kevin Garnett is Paul Pierce even said this. Kevin Garnett is one madman on the court. He's very emotional, but off court, he's one of the nicest, genuine guys you'll ever see. And there were tears coming out of Kevin Garnett's eyes tonight. I know he's known for he's an emotional player, but tonight that was pure pure gratefulness out of Kevin Garnett tonight. And it was chilling. It was absolutely chilling to see him just totally disregarded a question that Brian Scalabrine was about to ask, and immediately shouted out how grateful he was that Ray Allen was in attendance for this event. And to have him and Ray Allen meet at half court and hug, and then all of a sudden Pierce cuts into the feed and he gives the hug, and the big three is taking pictures at half court. That is something we've been waiting for years. Even us Celtics fans who might be a little frustrated about Ray Allen of his decision at the time, those moments got to be squashed. And what better night to squash it on Kevin Garnett, his retirement game. And hey, who knows? Kevin Garnett, like you said, hinted, hey, Ray, you're next. Rondo, you might be next too. You never know. You don't want to take these moments for granted. And it made me forget about this sour loss that we took into the hands of Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks tonight. But
we should request to play, a a lesser team maybe next time. Put us against a market team that we can still play on national TV on these games, because we played
like
on
a
ABC
Magic.
both games. But give us a lesser opponent. We can't be taking these losses. But you were saying, I'll let go here in a second. But you were something about Justin. You were saying something that moment at center court where all three of those guys came, and Garnett shouted Ray Allen out, and then joins in. They had the group hug. That's a moment that is going to be replayed on highlight films for years and years and years. We see those. You ever see that picture of Larry Bird's retirement ceremony where Magic, he's getting his Laker jacket ripped off and he has a shirt underneath?
He's got the jersey
That was that kind of moment. It's just historic, and it's an image that will just live on forever. It's an image that will live on forever, and it'll be behind you one day. You have those images, it'll be behind you. It was one of those moments, and I'm just so glad that we witnessed it.
Ian, how about yourself? We're gonna get to the game a little bit later on, but we're gonna try to focus on the positives here and talk about Kevin Garnett. What did you think of that ceremony, sitting at home watching it on television?
I'm not gonna lie, man. I was tearing up a little bit. Watching all the highlights and all the videos and seeing the tributes. I mean, it was kind of emotional. It brought me back to a time where, damn, that was 2008. We actually grew up in that, and we watched that as kids.
Right.
I mean, that was just an amazing ceremony. The Celtics put on a great show. That moment where Ray Allen came out, like Seamus was talking about, that was just, I mean, I don't think you could have asked for anything better than that. The fact that Ray Allen even showed up in the first place was amazing. Yeah, it was just an amazing ceremony. It literally, I honestly couldn't have pictured it going any better than the way it did. They brought back basically the entire 2008 team. The interview with Scal was hilarious. I don't think you could have given Kevin Garnett a mic and not expected him to swear and not expect him to have an amazing story. Yeah, it was just overall, it was an amazing ceremony. And, it's one of those things where it's you were there. It's not like something that happened in the 80s. It's not like we're retiring something that we didn't see. We saw this happen.
We lived it, right?
We lived through Kevin Garnett's years as a Celtic, and I mean, that was the best moment in recent memory for the Celtics as of time gone. So it was a great ceremony.
It's really exciting to see because, in my opinion, you get guys like Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, guys who are tough, gritty on defense, diving on loose balls, blocking shots. You can even throw Al Horford in there. But I'm sure all three of us can agree we're never, ever going to see somebody like Kevin Garnett, exactly like Kevin Garnett in a Celtic uniform. As much as we love Smart, and we definitely can compare Smart to Kevin Garnett intensity-wise. He's probably the closest, I would say, in my opinion, in my viewing, in my years of watching Celtics. But there's not going to be, at least for me, there's not going to be a guy like Kevin Garnett. And he spoke to the guys before the game, which I really preached towards the end of that Pistons post-game show. I was telling Seamus, look, I really want to. There's going to be so many legends at this game tonight. I want at least one of those legends to go in there, whether it's pre-game, halftime, post-game, go in there and talk to those guys. And KG did that tonight. And what did we get? I mean, I know the Celtics lost, but this was one defensive battle. Not one team broke 100 points. It was 20-18 after the first quarter. Not one team even broke 50 by halftime. I think Dallas was still in the 30s come halftime. I think they had 38, 39. So this was just a tough, gritty game. And I'm like Seamus, you said it, it makes losing games kind of okay, the past 2 times, right? Where, we did lose a game. That sucks. It leaves a sour taste in your mouth. But at the same time, we get to witness greatness again. We get to go away from the game, and really it's bigger than basketball, right? And to see KG happy, to see the city of Boston turned out, that was a great turnout in the crowd, and see the ownership and the past greats who played in Boston, and to see Isaiah, to the OG Isaiah Thomas get booed when he was on the intercom, and that's awesome. And
That was
something.
funny.
It makes me appreciate being a fan of one of the most outstanding franchises, if not the most outstanding franchise in all of sports. Like, we are truly one of a kind. It's unbelievable, and you never want to take moments like this for granted, even as a fan, right? Like I mentioned, we talked about at the end of the postgame show with the Pistons, how Tatum went on that Reddit podcast, and he was like, the first 2 to 3 years we kept going to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then the last 2 years we're sub 500, and it really makes me realize I might have taken those moments for granted. I thought those were normal. And KG is a guy who he didn't take anything for granted, right? He went in there every single night. You heard him. He listened to the same damn song for 2 straight weeks because it was working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So this is just a tremendous, tremendous night, despite the result on the scoreboard. Just something I certainly, even sitting at home, will remember for the rest of my life. And you look up at the rafters, and like you said, Seamus, that number 5 is there for eternity. That's his number lives on. His game lives on in Boston forever, and that's tremendous. I love it.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like
Williams. Go ahead, Ian. Go ahead, Ian.
It was only fitting that not only did Kevin Garnett complete that banner, it was right next to Paul Pierce.
Right.
Like, I mean, you could not. That's just like the way it had to be. It felt like so.
I want to point this out too. On the next banner, if Ray Allen is truly next, his number will be alone on banner.
Right.
That'll be
so they're gonna have to start.
That's gonna be at the same time.
That's gonna be weird.
I don't know if that'll last a while. I don't know how long that would last though, because
we gave numbers. We gave those numbers, Ray Allen's number and Rajon Rondo's number, to other guys after they were gone. Gordon,
Mo
Derek White has
obviously Demetrius Jackson.
I know.
Had Wanamaker.
Derek White has number
Derek
9
White right now.
Romeo
exactly.
Langford.
It's
the most
it's kind of weird,
players
but
got them.
But a good side note, though, from number retirement sense, Robert Williams out motivation, right? Just in all caps, right? Motivation after this. And the last time we retired a number was obviously Paul Pierce back in 2018. And that team, after that ceremony in February, ended up going on a run to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I remember after that ceremony, seeing something that special, it did make you want to go after something, right? Just seeing something that, those guys, both Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, their legacies, they went after something. And look at how legendary they are right now. Look at the greatness. Why would you not want to be like them? And now I just looked at this Kevin Garnett ceremony, and that point is even furthered for me because Paul Pierce, he had his ceremony and it was inspirational in itself, but Kevin Garnett, his intensity is insane. It's insane. And not only does he have the legendary factor of, looking at all of his greatness and being motivated from that, but just his energy, his fire, his intensity, that just riles guys up. It does. And I wonder now if the Celtics, yes, they lost this game today against the Mavericks, but they've been one of the best teams in the NBA over the past couple of months. Going forward, I wonder if this just motivates them further to go run.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if that was delayed because your voice was going and your lips weren't moving. I don't know if there was a delay on my end. But I totally agree. And I don't think there's a guy like KG. I mean, I love it. I love his intensity. I've always been a fan of his intensity, and him on the side, like when JB got that poster on Kleba, just seeing him dap up KG, like it takes a like KG was hyped. Tell me that didn't feel so good. Like remember a few years ago when JT hit that dagger in Milwaukee against Milwaukee, and Pierce was hyping up Jason Tatum. It was like that. Like that felt really, really, really good. And how much confidence, Ian, do you think that gives to these young guys like Brown and Tatum when those legends hype them up after a big play? Those champions hype them up after a great play like that.
I mean, you have to if I'm a player like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, you know, like they're not the most outspoken kind of superstars.
Right.
You know, I mean, they'll talk when they need to, but most of the time they'll let their game do the talking. When Jaylen Brown got that dunk and he dapped up KG, I lost it. That was like, I mean, you have to do something really special. Like, I mean, KG doesn't, he doesn't talk that often either in the media or anything. But the fact that happened, it was just like the perfect like combination.
Right.
Of time, space, it was just amazing to watch. And the fact that Jaylen Brown got to dap up Kevin Garnett after that dunk, which, I mean, is probably still going to be the dunk of the year. It doesn't matter if we lost this game. People are still going to remember that dunk.
Right.
I mean, it was spectacular to see. And if you're a young guy like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and even Kevin Garnett shouted out Jason Tatum at the end of his speech, I mean, you have to, like, feel like some sort of like confidence or something that's like inside of you, like this legend Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen and all of those guys that were there tonight, they were there to see them,
right?
So they must be doing something right. And I know what you were talking about, Seamus, with that Paul Pierce retirement, and we went on to the Eastern Conference Finals series. This team is better than that team, arguably. I mean, as a whole itself, arguably this team is better than that 2018 team. So who knows? Maybe we do go on a run in the playoffs, and it's all sparked by KG's retirement speech, which was absolutely amazing.
I absolutely love it. We spent the first 20 minutes of this show talking about it. Big ticket to the rafters. Let's really quickly recap exactly what went on in Boston with Kevin Garnett. A 2007 to 2013 tenure in Boston, acquired via trade back in 2007. Him and Ray Allen came around the same time. 396 games played with the Celtics. He had a winning record of 267 wins and 129 losses. He was a one-time champion in 2008. He had a career 48 in 36 playoff record in green, which is unbelievable. I know that 36 losses is a lot of losses, but 48 playoff wins is a lot of playoff wins, boys. And then his 2008 final stats in 6 games, they stick out to me tremendously. 18 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, nearly 2 steals, a block. He was a total plus 36 in that series. But you know what sticks out to me the most is that nearly 40 minutes a game for 6 straight games played, 37.9 to be exact. That is unbelievable. And especially the amount of physicality that those guys played with back then compared to, not to say that players are soft nowadays, but we all know that it was on a whole different level back in 2008 and 2009, 2010, on that era, Seamus. How unbelievable is that? Nearly 40 minutes a game, averaging a double-double. It was a plus 36 in the NBA Finals. Seamus, I believe, I don't. Ian, do you have him on your end? I don't have him on mine.
I might have no idea. Maybe. Right. No idea. But we'll see. Kit.
All right. Ian, how about yourself? I mean, Ian, double-double in the playoffs in 40 minutes a game, and they won 4-2 against the Los Angeles Lakers. Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, who at the time Pau Gasol was one of the greatest power forwards or centers in the league. That's unheard of. That is unheard of. And he was a plus 36, so he was that efficient on the court.
I mean, I was watching Kevin Garnett highlights today. I was watching that 2008 finals run, and the finals highlights. I mean, Kevin Garnett was just unbelievable. I mean, what other player can do that except for him? And, you know, granted, it was 2008, 2009, so the three-point shot wasn't there. But he wasn't the shooter that everyone knew him as, but he could pull up if he needed to. He could shoot if he needed to. He was dominant in the paint. I mean, we talk about how good Robert Williams is at blocking shots. Kevin Garnett is on a different level when it comes to that. And it's just insane to the fact that we got to actually see him play at a time like that. And it just speaks to the amount of greatness that Kevin Garnett has. And the fact that he only played 6 years for us, like, I mean, you know, granted, that's a long time in the NBA for any player, but 6 years, you know, and I don't know, it's just incredible to think about how much Kevin Garnett accomplished with the Celtics in a somewhat short amount of time. It was amazing to watch.
Seamus, you've joined us back.
Oh, jeez. Am I good now?
Still like.
Oh, no.
Oh
no, internet. It's the internet. Not good.
You can blame Luka.
Oh boy, this is like the first episode of Celtics Talk Weekly. When Seamus joined us, his connection was so bad the whole show.
I have breaking news though. Kevin Garnett and Deuce finally met.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That is so cool.
Oh man, like I
that
saw
is so
that
cool.
and I was just smiling.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, look, listen. We've gone through 25 minutes. Uh-oh. Seamus, do you have anything to say?
I'm probably like seconds behind.
Yeah, you are. Your mouth is moving of the words you're saying, and then once your voice starts to talk, your mouth is not moving anymore. All right, listen. We went 25 minutes talking about KG, rightfully so, but the Celtics did play a game prior to Kevin Garnett's jersey retirement. They dropped a tough one, a heartbreaker to the Dallas Mavericks, 95-92. They did get swept in the season series against the Dallas Mavericks, 0-2. But guys, listen, this was an awful offensive game for both teams. Luka Doncic didn't wake up until that second half. Obviously, Jason Tatum had a 17-point first half. Honestly, it was a very quiet 17-point first half, and I honestly, I really haven't paid attention to the game stats since. What did Tatum finish with? Tatum finished with 21.
He finished with 21. Yeah.
Right. So it was a very off night for him. He shot 7 of 23, Smart 4 of 12, Brown 6 of 16. So those guys didn't have a particularly great night. Robert Williams had a really good night, 10 points, 7 rebounds, 4 of 4 from the field, but his minutes did kind of play a factor down the stretch because he was in foul trouble yet again. Questionable calls both ways. I'm not going to really blame it on that because the Celtics really shot poorly from the basketball court today. Look, down the stretch, they finished on a 6-0 run. The Dallas Mavericks, a total 12-4 run. Celtics had a lead in that fourth quarter. Not a tremendous lead, but they had a lead. Let it slip away. The intensity went into Dallas's hands. Then Spencer Dinwiddie, who hit that big three-pointer to end the half and then hit the big three-pointer to end the game. Not going to lie to you guys, I was really, really peed off because not the fact that there were some questionable calls, mainly because it seems like every freaking time we play the Dallas Mavericks, we lose on a game-winning shot. And I don't know what to make of this loss. Like, I'm not going to overreact here. I mean, we've won 5 straight previous to this. This is our 4th loss in the last 22 games. So I'm not going to sit here and complain about it too much because we lost by 1 possession. I will say Al Horford was tonight's player spotlight, 17.6 rebounds, 5 steals. He was active on both ends of the floor tonight. He's not 35. I keep saying that. I was saying it at the beginning of the season. He had a little rough patch before the trade deadline. People thought we were going to trade him. No way. He's worth every penny of that contract. Okay. But look, I understand the Celtics lost. I understand we have to face reality. But on a night where we had KG, the first 25 minutes, we were really, really positive. I'd like to keep that positivity because the Celtics do go on a really tough Western Conference road trip now for the next 5 games. We're going to need the positive energy going into this. Ian, what are some takeaways? I know the Celtics didn't play a perfect game, and it's kind of hard to take something away when you lose by 3 and you also score under 100 points, but you also didn't give up 100 points. What are your kind of initial thoughts on this tonight?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. Once that game ended, I was pissed. I was pissed. I was so mad. Rightfully so. I feel like we have the right to be mad as fans if the way that game ended. I'm not gonna talk about the not foul on Smart. I'm not gonna talk about that. That's not my. I'm not going to talk about it because it's just going to make me mad again. And we're talking about positivity here. Positivity, though, the defense was electric. I'm not going to lie to you. Even though we lost this game, and obviously we lost on a game-winning open 3-point shot, it was an insane defensive effort throughout the entire game. And, we talk about how good the Celtics defense is. And, sometimes it's like, okay, well, we are the number 1 defense, but sometimes it doesn't look like it. Tonight, they proved that, they are the number 1 defense in the NBA.
Yeah.
Obviously, caveat aside. That defensive effort was great. The offense, I mean, there's really nothing that Tatum could have done in the second half. Literally, anytime he even thought about touching the ball, there was 2 guys on him.
Right.
And shout out to Dallas for playing an insanely aggressive defensive style that worked. Yeah. We played basically the same style against Luka, and the other guys on the Dallas squad, like Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith, they took advantage of the opportunity, and sadly, we couldn't hit our open shots outside of the double team. So I'm not going to dwell on it too much. It was a great game all around. We talk about it all the time. Anytime the Celtics lose, we just have to bounce back. Let's bounce back against the Warriors. Let's see what happens. Maybe this Kevin Garnett speech lights a fire under them, and they just go insane against Golden State.
Well, that's why I want to say that, this might be really good for this team. I know they've been winning a lot as of late, but this could really spark a fire for this team if one hasn't already been sparked. I mean, look, Kevin Garnett came in pregame, talked to these guys, clearly motivated them, at least on the defensive end. They just couldn't hit their shots tonight. Understandable, right? They lose this game, then they get to sit alongside and watch history right in front of their eyes, Celtic history. That should within itself motivate them tremendously. So that's a lot of motivation in one afternoon. And look, you're coming going on that road trip, facing off the Golden Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. I don't know if Draymond Green's going to play in the Golden State Warriors on ESPN national TV. You can make a pretty big statement come Tuesday night, and there's a lot of motivation riding on this team. I don't know if you guys remember back in 2018 when the Celtics played Golden State in Golden State. The Celtics absolutely whooped them and really, really gave them the business. So I'm hoping for something like that.
That was the one bright spot of that season.
That was the one bright spot, and
that was
everybody
the one bright spot of that entire season.
Everybody thought, because after post game, everybody was like, "Well, we played a big Uno game on the way there, and we really connected." And all of a sudden, we thought a game of Uno fixed the Celtics' problems that season. But Seamus, before we move on to player spotlight, I don't know if you're delayed or not. Do you want to give out your initial thoughts on tonight's game?
Am I still delayed?
I don't know.
I think so.
I don't know. Your face is frozen. Oh, damn it.
This is just not going to work.
Do you want to type your initial thoughts? And we'll pop it on the screen while we do player spotlight. Look, tonight's player spotlight. Al Horford, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 5 steals. He was a menace on both ends of the floor. Certainly looking like David said, he's 19 years old. Let's take a look at the player spotlight leaderboards. Al Horford sliding into 5th place. Now he has 4 player spotlights on the season, tied with Robert Williams and Dennis Schroeder. And one more will get him to the top 4 ahead of Robert Williams. You can see Jason Tatum leads with 17, but Al Horford again, 4 player spotlights on the season. Al Horford is not, he's not 35. He's 15 or he's 25. He's young. He's got those young legs. You don't got those grandpa legs. I've been saying it all season. And he's going to be huge. Now, obviously, going to manage his minutes, but he's going to be huge when it comes down to if the Celtics want to go on this deep playoff run or not. I think we don't talk about Al Horford enough. He really, really, really has become a great leader for this team. Vocally, he's distributing the ball very, very well. He's been shooting the ball very, very well as of late. Finished with 17 points tonight. Kind of, honestly, besides the Jaylen Brown dunk on the offensive end, Al Horford was kind of my only spark on the offensive end tonight. I mean, we saw a couple Rob alley-oops, but no flashy passes from Smart, no step-back threes from Tatum. Fairly quiet night for the Celtics. And, you know, it's tough to see. I know we're trying to focus on the positives, but it's tough to look at the scoreboard and go, we lost a game where we gave up less than 100 points, where we didn't give up more than 100 points. And then you look at our side and we only have 92. Kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth, Ian. It really does, especially like I thought the Celtics played some of their best defense all season. Like the way they guarded Luka Doncic was really, really well. Actually, I thought Horford and Rob Williams did a really good job on Luka Doncic tonight as well.
Yeah.
Just couldn't get the job done. And I don't really know what to make of because I don't want to overreact about this loss because, like, it's honestly, look, you lost on a game winner. The refs, let's be honest, the refs sucked both ways. There were some calls the Celtics got away with clearly, and there were also calls that the Dallas Mavericks got away with clearly. And who knows if Smart would have hit all 3 free throws if he had gotten to the line. It feels like the Celtics missed a lot of free throws this season. But who knows, honestly. I mean, I'm not going to – because the more you dwell on this game, the more negative thoughts go into your mind, unnecessary negative thoughts, especially on a night like tonight where you really want to focus on Kevin Garnett and the history of this team. And also, you can't go in dwelling on something when you play the Golden State Warriors on the road, Ian, on Tuesday night. That's something you can't be thinking about.
Definitely. And, I mean, first I want to talk about Al Horford because in the beginning of this game, Al Horford was the only energy I saw out of anybody until the Jaylen Brown dunk. And even when I felt so bad for him in the third quarter because it honestly felt like Luka Doncic was just bullying him the entire time, which, like, granted, he did the best he could. You know, you can only do so much against Luka Doncic, but you know, it was a tough game all around. Like you said, it's hard to not dwell on the negatives. And honestly, my only thought was when they overturned that call was like, you know, even if Smart hit all 3 free throws, what are the chances that Luka Doncic just hits a game winner on this anyway? So that was the only thing that went through my mind because they still would have had like 4 seconds left if he did. So who knows? I mean, I'd like to not think about this game as much as I can just to go on to, you know, Golden State. And I'm excited to see how they play against Golden State. They always play super well against the Warriors. So,
Seamus, really quick, I see your back, Seamus. I see your back.
Am I good?
Actually, your camera quality is tremendous.
I changed the setup, so we're good.
I have a little something to show you real quick, Seamus, because you and I pay attention to uniforms a lot. We got a little uniform blooper that we don't see in the NBA a lot. For the second straight season, the Oklahoma City Thunder have another uniform blooper where the Thunder and Grizzlies both come out in white. And they both get set, and they're both teams are in white. Now, if you remember last year, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they were orange, and the Hawks were red, and that's too close of a color. So this is a second straight season. That equipment manager is going to get fired over there in OKC.
Well, let's see this. Wait, let's see it again. Hold it up again. This is insane. 2 seasons in a row. I don't understand how no one coordinates before the game. Like that must be a mistake on the inside.
Look at them all.
Wow.
And you know what? Yeah, I don't know how that happens. I don't know because like especially like there's this thing called Locker Vision. If you don't know about it, it's basically like the NBA's official site where like equipment managers lock in what jerseys they choose to wear, and they're not allowed to do that white on white like in any sport. So I'm confused as to why or what happened. I don't know if it was maybe I don't know.
That is hilarious, though, because
The
just
equipment
imagine coming
managers
out for a game.
texting each other before the game so they know what jersey each team's going to wear.
That's mind-boggling.
Just
That's
imagine
just funny.
coming out for a game and just getting ready, warming up, going through all that hoopla. Starting lineups are announced. Everybody's hyped. All right, here comes tip-off, and everybody starts walking out there, and you're all in white. It's like,
I know. I'm sure the
somebody
Thunder,
has
though,
to change here.
but I'm sure the Thunder
was
won't mind
crazy.
delaying a game against the Grizzlies because last time the Grizzlies played in OKC, they beat them by like 75. So I'm sure the Thunder are more than glad to delay the game. But Seamus, what are your initial thoughts? We were talking about Al Horford. We were talking about the Celtics tonight defensively were phenomenal. And they just couldn't hit their shots. There was nothing going for them on the offensive end other than Horford early on was providing great energy, but there wasn't any flashy, Marcus Smart passes. There wasn't any Tatum step back jumpers. And besides Jaylen Brown's dunk, there really wasn't anything from Jaylen Brown tonight. What stuck out to you about today's loss over the Dallas Mavericks?
Well, the run just never came to me because at halftime we had a 9-point lead. We had only forced 38 points in the first half for the Mavericks. But then in the second half, you give up 38 points in the third quarter. And then down the stretch, you expect the Celtics nowadays. It's crazy that we're sitting here expecting this nowadays where we expect them to make a run late, and it just never happened. There were a couple of moments where certainly the Celtics could have pulled away with the game, yet they just never made that extra play that really solidified their quote-unquote dominance in the game. And that was just missing down the stretch. And also in the second half, too, it has to be pointed out, there was a missing punch from Tatum. And we've talked a lot about Tatum lately and how good he's been, and rightfully so. He had 17 points in the first half today, yet going into the second half, he only had 4. Typically, he goes into the second half strong. We see Jason Tatum, that is when he turns up his game, especially late in the fourth quarter. That is when Tatum can take over a game. And yet, we just didn't see that tonight out of Tatum at all. It felt like Brown had the ball in his hands a little bit more down the stretch and just throughout the second half. But Tatum to only score 4 points in the second half, that was something the Celtics just couldn't really overcome.
Yeah.
You're right. That's a good point. Usually we see basketball as a game of runs. Besides that, towards the end of the game for the Mavericks, there was really no runs in this game for either teams. Like there wasn't a lot of consecutive scoring from either side. 2 top 5 defenses in the league going at it for sure. 95-92 is your final score. That's as low as they come nowadays. It's not like back in when the Celtics played. Talking about KG, when the Celtics played the Hawks in that game 7, they beat them. It was like 85-69. That I think that was the final score. Like there's no low scoring games like that anymore. So it's definitely good to see a defensive battle. You just wish you were on the other side of it. Look, any final thoughts? Because we talked about KG. We covered pretty much everything. The Celtics head on a West Coast trip, a 5-game West Coast trip. They'll see teams like the Warriors. They'll see teams like the Nuggets, the Kings. There's somebody else I'm forgetting. I believe it's the Thunder. They also take a trip and visit them. So there's definitely some trap games within these, but there's definitely some high competition games. Like I'm really looking at that Denver game who always play the Celtics really, really tough, as well as the Golden State Warriors, where that matchup never seems to disappoint. What are we thinking? I'll kick it back to you, Seamus, because you haven't gotten a lot of talk time here tonight. What do you think about this five game West Coast trip coming up for the Celtics? Because coming down the stretch of the season, Seamus, it's a big one. There's really big games that the Celtics really need to win before they come back home to Boston.
Well, I like how you put it. There was a couple of trap games in there, along with some high competition games. When we're going into Golden State and Denver, we're going to get those two teams' best effort, because not only are we fighting for a playoff positioning right now, so are they out in the Western Conference. So Correct. We're going to get their best effort. And then the Kings and the Thunder, I don't know what we're going to see out of the Thunder. They can be a frisky team on some nights, but at this point in the year, I'm sure ownership has been in there with the coaching staff, and they've said, hey, maybe not try to win these games so hard, right? But the Kings, they went the other way. They sold their young talent, Tyrese Halliburton, for Domantas Sabonis to make a playoff run, and where are they? They're in the 13th seed. Now, looking at the Kings, we beat them by 53 the last time we played them. Yet now they're another team that they aren't very good right now, but they're trying to win games. They're trying to solidify something. They're trying to send some sort of a message or build something at the end of the season. So this is going to be a pretty tough trip coming up. And it's good that the Celtics both handled business against the Pistons on Friday, but today, we lost, and that, sucks in its own sense.
Right.
However, it wasn't an embarrassing loss. It wasn't a bad loss that you looked at and went, oh, that was terrible. Like I mentioned, Tatum scoring 4 points in the second half, that's just not going to happen on many nights. And at the end of the day, too, you held the Mavericks to 38 points in the first half, and you held them under 100 for the game. That's just the same trend of the Celtics defense, just getting after it. So today's game, I wouldn't put too much stock in today's game. It seemed like a bit of an anomaly, and the Celtics, for the most part, still played well. But moving forward, the Celtics are going to have to continue what they've already built.
Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, this West Coast trip is going to prove, can the Celtics compete with some of these big teams like the Warriors, like the Nuggets, to a lesser extent the Kings, who, granted, they're not a great team still, but they're better than they were the last time we played them. And they have a somewhat more healthy team than they did the last time we played them as well. So it's going to test the Celtics, man. I mean, they've been through a lot of ups and downs this year. And, this game could mark two different paths. There's one path where we bounce back, we come out, and we just go guns blazing the rest of the season. Or, who knows? Maybe they fall back down to earth and, they somehow slip back into the play-in tournament because they just struggle at the end of the year. Which is crazy to think about now, but not as crazy as it was in the beginning of the year.
Right.
But, it's two different roads. Every game technically can have that kind of thing. But this game kind of feels like a benchmark game where it's like, okay, you can either go one path or the other path. And I'm hoping the Celtics can, they can go out guns blazing. They can just continue to play the way that they know how to play, the things that have given them success over the last month or two, and it's going to be important to see. I really want to see the Golden State game. That game is going to be a huge game for them because, we know how good Steph Curry is, but they've been struggling. So can the Celtics take advantage of that?
My question to you guys is really quick. Ian, I'm sorry. I know you're going to go. No, actually, you finished because what I have to say is going to probably be after you. Go ahead, finish.
I was pretty much done.
I feel like a jerk. But to go off on what you were saying about the West Coast trip, Ian, we went to watch that OKC game back in November. You and I went to that game. For the most part, the Celtics took care of business, but down the stretch, the Thunder really did beat up on the Celtics and cut into that deficit. We've seen the Thunder play the Celtics really well the past couple of years. Obviously, Luke Cornett saved us last year against the OKC Thunder on the road. Uncle Luke. But again, that's a game. There are some games, and like I talked about, there's some really highly competitive games, and then there's trap games. There's games that you really have to watch out on. You can't take your opponent for granted. In the beginning of the season, this would be a perfect time to see how the Celtics have improved through the course of the season. Because in the beginning of the season, we were taking teams like the Kings, the Pistons, the Magic, teams like that for granted, and we'd lose games. This time, we're seeing a mixture of both contending teams and the Warriors, the Nuggets, to lottery teams like the Kings and the Thunder. So we're really going to get a good look at both sides of the NBA here. I'm going to ask this to you guys on air. I don't care. I'm going to ask you guys this on air. Usually this is something I would ask off camera. How do we feel about covering the Warriors game? I'm down. Are you guys down?
Yeah,
you can say no. You can say no if you don't want to. I mean, that's understandable. That's like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
What do you mean?
I mean,
you're talking about covering it in the morning.
Are you talking about sleeping? What is that? I mean, I think
I'm
I'll be
1000%
streaming
down.
the game regardless, so I'll already be up. So
There's like a period of time in which I'm up or active after a Celtics game. Like it's just gonna happen that after every Celtics game, I'm probably gonna be up another 3 hours going through Celtics stuff. Like that's just going to happen. So
might as well just.
I'm
be
good.
Talking about
I'm 1000% good.
Watch, we'll be down 50 at halftime and go, yeah, we're not doing it. I'm going to bed. But no, yeah, okay. All right, we're committing. We're committing, right? We're all committing.
I can say the only game that I can't do is the Kings game because I'm going up to Maine and I'm actually watching the Maine Celtics play on that day. So
that should be fun.
Well,
the Maine
good.
Celtics. You can borrow one of my Maine Celtics jerseys. I have a Sam Hauser now, and I have a Aaron Nesmith. So that's pretty cool. They have dope jerseys, by the way. Maine Celtics.
Yeah, the camo ones they came out with the other day, those were pretty fire.
Yeah, those were fire. But they have pretty dope jerseys too down there in Maine, especially since their rebrand. Okay. Really quick, I'm just going to recap the schedule before we go off, since we don't do a podcast anymore, apparently. I'm going to give you guys the week ahead for this week. Okay, so it's not Tuesday night, it's Wednesday night. Wednesday night against the Golden State Warriors, 10 o'clock p.m. tip-off. Then Friday night, 10 o'clock p.m. tip-off over the Sacramento Kings in Sacramento. Then we get a back-to-back Sunday and Monday. Denver at 8 p.m. on Sunday. OKC 8 p.m. on Monday. And then we're back home to take on the Utah Jazz. And I know this is a whole week and a half from now, but the Celtics have a weird, rare 3-day break between the Utah game and the Minnesota game. They play Wednesday, and then they don't play again till Sunday and Monday. So that's one of those weird March few days off.
Not good.
Yeah, that is good.
Not, when we play a Sunday game after having almost a week off, it feels like.
Yeah,
never good.
No,
never
not
good.
at all. And we play it on the bright side. We play at 6 p.m. on the bright side, I guess. So I guess it's better than playing at noontime or 1 o'clock, even 3:30.
Trap game.
But that for sure. And you know what though? That Minnesota game, I know I don't want to overlook all these great opponents that we're playing, but that Minnesota game has the potential to be a phenomenal game because they're making some noise out there out west. I don't want to I don't want to disrespect the T-Wolves. And I love me a good Patrick Beverly, Marcus Smart matchup. So hopefully both those players are good and ready to go for that Sunday. But we'll be back here Wednesday night, Thursday morning, whatever you want to say, for Celtics Warriors coverage. But until then, I'm Justin Lowe. That's Ian Angelo. And below us is Seamus Zarlingo, a.k.a. Celtics Every Day. We'll catch you guys Wednesday night for Celtics Warriors. Take care. Take care, everybody.